Welcome back to Brew and Babble. This is episode 6. Right, so let's have a look what we got today. Well, this week anyway. Got a few news stories actually, no movies and books and things like that, but a few news stories actually. Alright, so apparently the pagan community can't even agree with itself this week, which I don't think really is anything new. So a witchcraft shop owner just called a druid's orders ceremonies a role-playing fantasy in cheap robes. Sanka, hello. Thanks for joining. And shocker, it did not stay contained. So grab your tea. I've got my coffee because this one's got a vandalism accusation, religious prejudice counter accusation, and best twist of the week, a book launch hiding underneath the whole thing. So here's who we're dealing with. On the one side, we've got Connor Farrimond, who's 29. He runs a witchcraft retailer, or yeah, retailer. It's called Malthus and Co. You may have actually seen it pop up on your social media. For some reason, it's been popping up all over my Facebook only recently. But he identifies as an occultist anyway. He's the one who struck the match. On the other side is Christopher Hughes, who founded the Anglesey Druid Order back in 1999. Um, some of you'll know him from S4C, I believe. He's also a former mortuary technician, which, sure, add that to the pile of things that make this man interesting. And the battleground itself is Bryn Kelly Zoo. Is it Do or Zoo? There you go. That's how you pronounce it. Zoo. The Neolithic passageway tomb on Unis Moon, or Anglesey for the non-Welsh speakers in the chat. So anyway, so Ferrymon's complaint has a few layers. So he says druids climbing the mound are damaging a structurally unsound ancient monument. And that's a real physical preservation concern. He says fires have been lit at the site during drought conditions, which, yeah, I don't know if that either myself. Litter left behind after ceremonies, all fair enough on their own, yes, thank you very much. But then he goes for the bigger swing and calls the rituals themselves a role-playing fantasy. Cheap robes, no genuine link to actual prehistoric tradition, and that's the made-up rituals line, and that's the one that actually lit this up online, not the litter itself. But this is the classic authenticity fight. It's your practice isn't old enough, isn't real enough, except normally that's coming from from the outside, from outside the community. A skeptic or a Christian critic or somebody like that with zero skin in the game. But this time it's coming from inside the occult world, and this basically boils down to a family feud, not an outside attack. But we see this all the time. It's Witch Wars, typical Witch Wars stuff. But anyway, Hughes did not just sit there and take it. He's calling it religious prejudice from someone who, by his account, never actually engaged with the order directly. And to his credit, he's not dismissing the underlying concern. He agrees that anyone genuinely damaging the site should be prosecuted. He's just disputing that it's his people doing it. He points out the Anglesey Druid Order works with Caddo and English heritage, meaning there's an actual formal heritage stewardship relationship there, not some rogue operation trampling a monument for fun. And notably, Farimond has since walked his tone back or a bit at least, after a comment section turned on him. But here's the Psycat's here. Hello, Psycat. Thanks for joining. But here's the part that didn't make the original coverage, and honestly, it's the best part of the whole story actually. So Farimond's shop is currently promoting a book, Down in the Ground Where the Dead Men Lie. And the marketing copy for that book uses, I'm not exaggerating, almost the exact same language as his public comment about the Druids. Quoting, "These sites deserve reverence, not vandalism or cheap theatrics." Right, so now you've got a pagan blogger, who's going by the name of Daniel Brand Griffith, who's calling the whole announcement a terrible piece of writing that reads like a personal attack, and a commenter going by the name Dragonborn. He's jumping in defending the Anglesey Druid Order as Welsh-speaking scholars working from actual medieval sources with a real Cadou relationship, and calling the Malthus and Co. marketing nasty and spiteful. So, genuine heritage concern or a controversy marketed or manufactured to actually sell a book? Who knows? All right, on to the next little tale. So this is actually a small story, or smaller than the Druid thing anyway. But I think it might actually matter more because this one's about whether a pagan clergy member gets to run for public office under their own religious name. Bureaucracy versus identity, county election board edition type of thing. So meet Mortellus. Might be familiar with the name. Legal name is Terrail Lee Amorello. Now, some of you will know them already. Gardnerian, Wiccan, High Priest X, Necromancer, author, public speaker, founder of a group called Indivisible Rutherford, and chair of the Interfaith Caucus out there. I believe also writes books. I'll go and see if I can find that if we've got enough time at the end. Rick, hello, Rick. How are you doing today? So I'm doing very well, thank you. Doing good, doing good. All right, carrying on with this bit. So this is not some kind of random person who woke up one day wanting a cute ballot name. This is a known clergy figure with real community standing, and right now they're one of the 6 people running for Rutherford Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor. I know. Soil and Water Conservation District. Not exactly the sexiest office in America, but stay with me because the fight itself is the interesting part, actually. So here's what's happening. Mortellus asked to appear on the ballot as Mortellus, a religious mononym, and there's no surname to it. The name they're actually known by in their community and their work. And initially, it was fine. The county board, following state guidance, told them to register as Mortellus, and using the surname NLN, which stands for no last name. And they paid the filing fee. They were accepted as a candidate. It's a done deal, right? Except then the state board reversed itself. The North Carolina State Board of Elections came back and said, actually, no, ballots require a surname because that's how you alphabetize a ballot listing. And Mortellus says nobody actually called them to explain any of this before their registration and ballot designation just got changed. Not we're reviewing this, not here's a heads up, that just changed it, right? So now it's a formal thing. In the first week of August, the state board voted unanimously to issue a declaratory ruling. Basically, let's settle this exactly what the law says here. And they've got a final decision on the merits scheduled for August 20th. One board member, Stacey Eggers, put the state's hesitation pretty plainly. He said he wasn't opposed to hearing the quest, but he's somewhat hesitant to allow people to put whatever name they want on a ballot. And there's precedent behind that caution. The board's rejected mononym style requests before, most notably a candidate who wanted to run as Madam Justice in a state Supreme Court race. So the state's not pulling this concern out of nowhere. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting for us, is that Mortellus is in the same category as Madame Justice, a chosen campaign persona, or is it functionally identical to, say, a nun running as Sister Mary Catherine, or a monk running under a religious name? Which ballots accommodate all this without any blinking? Because if the answer is it depends on which religion you belong to, that's a problem. That's the actual stakes here. Not whether one guy gets a cool ballot name, but whether minority faith clergy get treated the same as mainstream faith clergy when they show up to participate in the most basic form of civic life there is. But we will know in 2 days. August 20th is the final ruling. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll bring you the results next week. However, whatever happens there. Either way, this is exactly the kind of small, unglamorous local government story that ends up telling you a lot about how much room minority religions actually have in American civic life. Way, way more than the size of the office itself would suggest, actually. All right, so then we move on to um, a bit more of a heavier, serious one. Well, they're all serious, but this is a lot heavier than we usually do. So this involves real death, a real conviction, real ongoing violence against women. I still think it's worth noting because witch hunting is a phrase we all use pretty casually, and this is a reminder that in a lot of the world, it is not a metaphor. It's still happening right now to real people. It happens sometimes here in South Africa. This story comes out of India, though. Dragons here. What are we rolling in? Just news today. We're just doing the news. It's Brew and Babble. So anyway, on August 15th, India's Supreme Court affirmed a murder conviction and life sentence in a case out of Odisha. Back in February 1998, in a village called Gundabali Luhakera, I think that's how you would probably pronounce it. A woman died, and her family blamed the death on witchcraft and decided someone in the community was responsible through supernatural means. Now, the people they accused then attacked and beat a woman to death over it. Her own daughter witnessed the assault and was the key eyewitness at the trial. That case has now wound all the way up through the courts, nearly 30 years, and the Supreme Court just closed it out, upholding the conviction and the life sentence. Now, the bench didn't just rule narrowly in the facts. Justices Prashant Kumar Mishra and N.V. Anjaria used the ruling to say something bigger. They called witch hunting the malady plaguing society, where, quote, prejudice, superstition, and irrational fear supersedes the rule of law. And they were specific about who bears the weight of that: women, targeted through collective mob-style hostility based on beliefs that have nothing to do with rule of law or due process, the exact opposite of the constitutional protections they're supposed to have. Now, this isn't an isolated case. Government crime data shows over 2,500 witchcraft-related murders in India between 2000 and 2016. The overwhelming majority of them women. More recently, 2012 to 2022, nearly 1,200 people killed. 12 states are considered significantly affected, and in Bihar alone, something like 75,000 women are estimated to be living under constant threat of being accused. Some states have their own laws against it. Odisha, where this case happened, passed legislation back in 2013, but there's still no single national law covering the whole country, which means enforcement varies wildly depending on where you actually live. And there's a pattern researchers keep flagging. A striking share of these accusations, something like 4 in 10, line up with a woman gaining income, land, or some kind of standing in her community. So, which accusations in a lot of these cases, probably all of them actually, aren't really about supernatural belief at all. They're a mechanism, a way communities or specific people within them strip power away from women right when they start to gain some. The superstition is the delivery method. The target is usually a woman who got too visible. Just the witch trials from the 14 to 700s. It's just happening, still happening today. It really is, just in different parts of the world. That's all. And we seem to forget that, I think. So I just want to be really clear about this. This has nothing to do with real pagan practice, and it's not really about witches at all. It's about mob violence and superstition being weaponized against women, usually the most vulnerable ones, but it happens under that word, witch. And I think we need to be more aware of it and speak out more about it because it's bullshit, really. Um, anyway, let's see. Next story. Bit lighter, a little bit lighter. Actually, very much lighter. Okay, the last one's it's less of a fight, more of a well that changes everything because 4,000 years and 224 years of assumptions just got undone by a DNA test, and the person at the center of it is a lot more relevant to this show than you'd think. So, back in 1802, two antiquarians, William Cunnington and Sir Richard Colt Hoare, excavated a burial at Upton Lovell in Wiltshire, right in Stonehenge's backyard. It became famous enough to make it into ancient Wiltshire, which is basically one of the founding texts of British prehistoric archaeology. And the grave goods inside were genuinely spectacular for a Bronze Age burial. A touchstone for testing the purity of precious metal, stone tools with actual microscopic traces of gold still on them, cups made from fossilized sea sponges, a polished stone, and a greenstone battle axe hauled all the way from Cornwall, though it turns out that axe was actually used as a hammer, not a weapon. This was somebody's metalworking kit, buried with them like it mattered, right? Now, in 1962, an archaeologist named Stuart Piggott looked at that elaborate kit and coined the term the Upton Lovell Shaman, drawing a comparison to Mesolithic shamanic burials up in Northern Europe, and that label stuck for over 60 years. Modern archaeologists actually treat shaman here as speculative. So there's no direct evidence this person held a specific religious role, for instance. It was more of an evocative nickname that just sort of caught on. But either way, the assumption baked into that name for 6 decades was simple. Elaborate metalworking burial, therefore important person, therefore probably a man. Right? Always comes back to important person has to be a man. Anyway, that assumption just got demolished, completely and utterly demolished. Researchers from the Francis Crick Institute ran ancient DNA analysis as part of an exhibition called We Go Way Back, and the Upton Lovell shaman is a woman. Full stop. She stood around 5'4", and she had arthritis in her right wrist, which lines up pretty precisely with someone who spent years doing repetitive, skilled handiwork. Gold testing, burnishing, exactly the kind of labor those tools in her grave were built for. David Dawson, director of the Wiltshire Museum, where her remains are held, put it about as directly as you can. He said, it completely tears up previous assumptions. It's a fantastic revelation of the position of women in society. And honestly, that's the headline. A Bronze Age society where the highest status metal worker buried near one of the most significant ritual landscapes in Britain was a woman, and nobody clocked it for 2 centuries because nobody thought to check. But anyway, an interesting note here actually is that metalworking in this period wasn't just a trade. It was perceived as almost magical. Turning raw ore into gold and bronze was specialized, closely guarded knowledge, and most people didn't even have. That's exactly the kind of skill that gets a person treated as touched by something beyond the ordinary. So whether or not shaman is the technically correct word, the instinct that put this person in the category with ritual specialists wasn't crazy. The field just guessed the wrong gender for 60 years because powerful and mysterious defaulted to probably a man in 1962. And honestly, a lot of the time it still does, really. But I do love this story because it's just the past quietly correcting itself once somebody finally asked the right question. 224 years she waited for that, but that was just lovely, absolutely. Right, that's all of our news for today. As I said, no book releases or anything like that to announce. I'll see what we've got next week for that. Nothing really crazy going on with Witch Talk at the moment, apart from the usual rubbish. But I wouldn't really say anything to report. So that's it for this week. As always, if you do have any questions you would like to ask, just throw them in the comments after the show, and I'll answer it in a short or something like that. Otherwise, hopefully see you guys on Thursday for Hedge and History. We're doing Drawing Down the Moon on Thursday. That's going to be a pretty cool one. I like that. It's probably going to run a bit longer than our 20 minutes, but it's going to be well worth it. Anyway, okay, so I will see everybody then. Thanks for joining.